Hello and welcome to a very, very special edition Property Hotline with me, Kavita Krishnan. Now, in the last couple of days, we've been attempting to answer all your questions on how demonetization, the crackdown on black money, could impact your purchase or investment in real estate. And we continue with that today. Today, with me in the studio is Amit Goenka, MD and CEO of Nisus Finance. Amit will be answering all your questions related to buying, selling, and investing in real estate and how demonetization could impact that. Amit, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Kavita. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, Amit, a lot of anxiety amongst home buyers, amongst investors, people who have already bought into real estate think they're stuck. People who plan to buy do not know what to do. Very quickly, before we go into the questions, what is your take? Do you see prices going down immediately?
See, first of all, I think we must not be caught up with the huge amount of euphoria or anxiety which has followed this action, and believe in the fundamentals of the asset class. Believe in the fact that if you have to buy a home, it's a very, very fundamental, a very basic need, a very fundamental asset class, and therefore it will continue to remain that asset class. It's not speculative. It is not a daily traded asset, and therefore the long-term prospects of the property is what always need to be kept in mind, as opposed to what happens in a few weeks, a few months, or even a couple of years. So I think fundamentally one would like to stay with that. Second of all, yes, sentiments will impact things in the short term. I think if everybody believes it, and even if it's not true, it becomes true. So even I don't think that there is really any room for rate correction.
You know, Amit, very quickly, you are an investor yourself. You run a property fund. What are you doing at the moment? Are you going ahead with your plans to invest in property?
Well, we're opportunistic, Kavita, and actually we are making hay while the sun shines. So we are going out and making bids. We're getting some very nice deals. People who need the liquidity, who have leverage, who have taken loans, developers who need to repay banks or other investors are willing to cut deals, even if it means that they're going at cost or sometimes even slightly below that. Because they need liquidity, they're willing to cut deals, they're willing to come on the table and actually collect the check, which they were not as desperate, or they could have held on for some time, but now they're saying we need the liquidity. It's going to be a problem for the next 3 to 6 months. If I'm willing to give them a check, let us discuss terms. So I think great time for anybody.
So there you have it, right on top of Property Hotline from an investor in the market. Good time to invest, good time to buy into the market. In fact, this is the time to drive hard bargains. Let's get started. We have an email query from Jesnoor Chedda. Now, Jesnoor wants to know the construction cost of 4 floors at 1,350 square feet plot that he has in Navi Mumbai. He also wants to know whether the prices will come down after demonetization. Amit, these are the questions that we are getting. Will prices come down after demonetization?
As I just mentioned, Kavita, and to Jesnoor, that there will be short-term impact, and I can't deny that. Nobody will deny it. Everybody, including various industry associations, have said 2 things, and I concur with that. One, I think secondary market sales will be a problem, which means people who've been holding as investors would want to offload, will want their money back, because they've been able to sell at non-check basis in the past. They know it'll go be a problem, so holding on doesn't make sense.
So if you're a buyer, you should be looking at the resale market for bargains?
Resale market is the best place for bargains, because there is no way that they can actually do non-check transactions and therefore not pay capital gains, and therefore there's no point of holding on to it, really. So I think that is clearly one segment which is getting affected, and NCR is a great example of that. The second is in terms of the impact in costs. Well, we really don't know yet, but if there is a slowdown, and I think there will be a slowdown in construction, if there's a slowdown in fresh sales, in money is coming in from sold inventory, and overall the entire industry becomes more sluggish and money rotation or money flow slows down further, then clearly people will have no option but to pass that impact across the entire value chain, which means cement and steel industries are already very hit, but they will have to make good by either extending better credit terms, coming with slightly better discounts, etc., which will create a certain amount of value addition to the entire supply chain so as to be able to offer a certain further discount to the end customer. So yes, I do believe that there could be a possibility, not everywhere, but in good number of pockets, where the overall cost of construction will come down, because there is a need to maintain liquidity across the labor markets, across materials market, across other sources.
But you also said time to drive a good bargain in the resale market, and you can see prices coming out. You gave the corollary of the NCR market, where we've already seen this happen because investors started cutting prices and selling below the price being offered by the developer. Prices actually came down over there. So, drawing a parallel to that market, what kind of reduction in prices can you actually expect? What kind of bargains can you expect if you go out hunting for one in the resale market at this moment?
I think the general sense that people are talking is anywhere between 10 to 20%. I don't know whether it will be 20%, but I don't think it's unfair to expect around thereabouts 10% on an aggregate across most markets, because that is really the cost of putting in money now versus holding on for another 6 months, because the cost of capital today roughly is about 20%. For the projects. And if I have to hold for 6 months, I've lost that 10%. So effectively, I'm saying that most sensible and suave developers or sellers believe that by holding on for 6 months, it's basically better to discount it by 10%, take that hit and actually liquidate it today. So that is something one can make a reasonable assumption on.
So if you are in the market to buy a home, and if you go bargain hunting in the resale market, look for a 10 to 20% discount. Right, Amit?
Well, 20%, yes, if you're lucky, why not?
If you're lucky, but that's a bargain you need to drive. See, after a long time, let's face it, after a long time, the buyer is finally in the driver's seat.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can drive a hard bargain today. People out there want to get out of the property that they've been holding, and actually they've been caught napping. People who've been holding property for such a long time, thinking whether to exit or not, have been caught napping. And if they want to exit now, chances are they will be ready to cut a deal at distressed prices. And that is where you need to close in if you are a home buyer, if you're an end user. Drive a hard bargain, ask for 10 to 20% discount in rates that are being quoted, and that is what you should be getting. We have Nikhil Rao who sent in an email query now. He wants to know the resale price for a 3 BHK, a 1,395 square feet apartment in Kharghar Sector 35 after demonetisation. Nikhil wants to know whether prices have reduced. He also wants to know whether it is the right time to invest in property. Amit, we've already answered whether or not prices are reducing. And
right.
Nikhil, we will help you with Khargar's rates. But let's get to the last bit of his question. Is this the right time for an investor to enter into the market?
So first of all, if you are a single home buyer, if you're an investor for one apartment for yourself, I don't think there's any harm in holding it out, because there are a number of challenges also administratively today to go and even buy and register a property. And we're facing those challenges. I mean, the fact that you need to still pay a certain amount of cash at the registrar's office to get your property registered, scan the document, and then there is no availability. So there is clearly a certain amount of administrative delay when it comes to executing a sale transaction in today's market. So I think let first of all the entire froth sort of settle down till the end of December, wherein you can lock in your deals, negotiate hard, and then put in your money, so that at least your transaction then is smooth. You're not held up in queues, you're not waiting to get certain monies out so that you can go and cut the deal, etc. So I think that's one, is there's no need to create a panic sort of a situation even on a property buy. Certainly the time to negotiate and invest in a property, I think, has never been better, and I think it will continue to be like that for the next 2 to 3 months. So start looking very seriously. But again, the other filter that one needs to now start applying, apart from the price, is who are we going to deal with? Because people who've traditionally sold in cash will have a problem, because they're not going to get further monies. People who have not followed certain principles of selling, have not been about forthright about collecting in time, building in time, doing registrations in time, will have a problem. So I think it is very important that now it is even more relevant to start filtering out, is the guy...
That's a very important point that you're making, Amit, and I would like to spend some time on this. Right now, if you were to invest in a property, obviously the guys who are the brands, the big brands, the ones who are, who have been dealing in check payments and who've been very upfront about their business, etc. Now, those guys are not really going to let you come and bargain and drive a bargain with them or reduce their prices. The discounts probably will be offered by the guys who've been dealing in cash, right? But how safe is it for someone to invest or buy into property like that?
Exactly. So the first indicator is how many secondary trades are available for a particular project or a particular developer, which basically means they've traditionally been selling to investors who are now willing to dump, or those investors will stop paying. If they stop paying, and they're not obviously the home loan takers, which means the project will suffer, and which means your apartment will suffer. So I think if there is a way to find out whether investors are invested in a property or not, is to find out from brokers, from portals, whether secondary market trades are available quickly or not for such properties, because investors would have started making such offers.
No, but what I want to know is also what are the criteria that you will actually, how will you benchmark that particular property, whether or not it is safe to go ahead. You could get a good deal. But what happens if that gets
stuck?
So
I think there are few very easy sort of indicators. One is a project which has got multiple APFs or multiple bank approvals. Typically it does that when they expect a large number of people to come and actually buy on home loans, as opposed to having one or two banks approved. Okay, because that means that only one or two or a few number of buyers actually went for home loans and therefore didn't need a lot of banks to actually approve it, whereas most of the people have actually gone and actually paid down in cash or paid through their own sources. So the first and foremost indicator is how many banks have approved it. If 7, 8, 10 banks have approved a certain project, I think it's a very strong indicator that people have actually heavily relied on home loans to buy there, which means they're end consumers largely. I think that's the first. The second is whether the project is an early stage project or whether it is nearing completion. We've always said that. I've always said that, Kavita, that we need to look at as late stage as possible, as ready an apartment as possible, and not wait for something to come up over the next 5 to 7 to 10 years, because now the time for approval may go up, the time to construct may go up, the time to deliver may actually go up, given that we're expecting certain sluggishness on construction, on further sales. And we also know that unless sales happen, nobody's going to actually keep a ready residential building completely locked up so that buyers can come and actually start buying, which means they will start dragging their feet as we go. And yes, there are downside risks to the developer, but clearly there's no money available as well. So I think as late stage as possible, and today you can drive a bargain for any product. Even if it's ready to move in, it's nearly ready. Everybody wants liquidity. Every investor, every developer, irrespective of who they are, want liquidity. They expect further slowdown to happen.
And they want liquidity in the new 2,000 rupee notes that have been issued.
Well, check an RTGS and IMPS, please.
But net, what you need to look for, Nikhil, if you're looking to invest in property, and it is a great time to invest in property because prices are coming off the market as we speak. In this market, you can drive a hard bargain. I'm constantly repeating this. What you need to look for, though, is look to get into a project which has multiple bank approvals, which means there are a lot of end users who are probably looking to buy into that property, or the developer expects end users to come in. The other thing that you need to check is try and find out how many people actually live in the homes that they've bought it in that property. The lesser the number of investors in a property, higher the chances that it'll probably get completed on time.
And because you're talking of Kharghar, Kavita, I think Kharghar is a great location. It is an end consumer location. There have been investors in the past. So if the project has been really old, those prices will actually crash faster, because as you can see, there's actually been an escalation in Kharghar prices. They're tending to more towards 8,000 rupees today, as opposed to, let's say, 7,500 rupees a year back. So clearly the run up to Kharghar has been very high.
How do you see the prospects of the Kharghar market? Now, this is a market where there is a lot of infrastructure coming in. There is talk of a BKC-like hub coming up over there. Something like demonetisation. Do you see it forcing prices to stay stable for some time, or do you foresee a dip in prices?
Well, in general, any market like a Kharghar expects some sort of a hockey stick sort of a situation where you will see a certain amount of flattishness to a certain amount of dip, and then it will start going up again. So that curve is really where the opportunity lies, which could be the next 6 months alone, 6 to 9 months, because once the interest rates start getting cut, which is already what most bankers are saying, there's so much liquidity that it's as good as a 4% CRR cut, and they will start passing on the interest rate cuts, irrespective of whether the RBI cuts repo rate or not, which is again a very strong expectation that home loans will come down by 0.5%.
And we've already seen that happening. It was just this week that Axis Bank, in fact, announced a reduction in its MCLR, which, of course, is the rate at which banks will lend and which home loans are tied to. We have Arun Dawale now, who's called in from Satara with a question. Arun, what's your question?
Good evening. As you are aware, that while buying any property, we have to pay some cash to the developer. And in the present view, how to effect the payment to the builder? Because every transaction above 50,000 will be under scanner of IT department. So how to deal with the situation?
Arun, ideally, if you're buying property, you should not be paying in cash. And if somebody is asking you for cash, you should run away from the developer. But let Amit come in. Amit, what would you advise?
I think you're absolutely right, Kavita. I think the whole point of this entire exercise done by the Finance Ministry and by the Honorable Prime Minister is to graduate people from cash-based economy to actually open market, check-based, disclosed, transparent economy. And I think property has obviously been a very murky, a very sort of untransparent sector. So clearly that impact will be highest, Mr. Dawale, in places like Satara, within Maharashtra interiors, not necessarily so much in Mumbai and Pune, but definitely in parts of Gujarat. So every developer has now found a way where he will be willing to take a check. Okay, so you have to be able to negotiate and say, I will only pay by check. I will not be willing to pay by cash. I can't pay cash. I think that's a given. I think there's no question about it.
A lot of times people pay the token amount to kind of say that, okay, yes, I want to go ahead with the deal. I'll be arranging the money, but till then take this money. So it could range from 10,000 rupees to a lakh.
Sure.
And a lot of times people pay this in cash.
Sure.
Now, would you advise buyers like Arun to pay that token amount also in check?
Absolutely. And what is the problem? I mean, where is the problem of paying even 5,000 rupees by check? Where's the problem? I mean, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the moment you attach a check, it's a negotiable instrument. It has to be seen as a mode of payment, and a receipt needs to be generated. And it's even better because if you've paid in cash, whether you get a proper receipt, whether it's recognized in your sale transaction or not, in your MOFA agreements or in your builder-buyer agreements, all those become question marks. Today, every rupee that you're investing gets recorded. You're supposed to pay a 1% TDS on the entire amount. Now, because you're going to pay in cash, that amount will not get recognized. There will be TDS deduction on that amount. Therefore, it becomes a completely suspect amount. It is not something you can drive value for. So, and therefore, it makes your bargain with the consumer forum and various legal authorities even weaker. So that's the whole idea. Is if you have to bring RERA in the country, if you have to empower the legal and judicial system, every payment has to be recordable, verifiable, and made by proper instruments. And therefore, it's very important that every developer today I know has started moving. I know, for example, small vendors, including labor contractors, have started accepting checks and started depositing that amount into their laborers' accounts, even if those accounts are sitting in some other state. So this developers
essentially paying by check, paying by check or by card or whatever else you're using. That in fact that is also something that empowers buyers like you. You need to understand that paying by check actually empowers you. It gives you a legal proof, legal evidence that you have actually paid the developer some particular amount of money. So even if you don't sign an agreement, and we strongly advise you not to get into deals like that, if you pay any money to the developer, you should be signing an agreement. But even if you don't sign an agreement, you have a check. You have made a check payment, and that is payment that can be traced. And that is proof that you've paid the developer something. Which is why we strongly advise you, if somebody is asking you for cash, and especially in this particular scenario, please run far, far away from that person. You're better off paying by check to the developer, whether it is 1,000 rupees or whether it is a lakh. Moving on, we have a question that's coming in through email from Sachin. Now, Sachin wants to know the closest area to Powai to purchase a home. His budget is 45 lakh rupees. He wants to know whether he could get a 3 BHK in the same budget after demonetization. I think Sachin is seeing, is dreaming now, right now. 3 BHK and 45 lakhs in Powai.
Well, around Powai, because of the connectivity, you've got the entire central belt, right from Kanjurmarg, Vikhroli, even connecting Thane on one side, and obviously you're on the other side. You've got the entire belt, connecting you with, right from Santa Cruz up to, especially after the entire, linkage on the west and eastern corridor with Powai. But having said that, your pricing till Thane, especially, does not drop below 10,000 rupees. And even on the other side, for example, your pricing even beyond Andheri, because that's where it opens up, does not drop below 10,000 rupees. So even if you're looking at a 1 BHK, Nitin, a 1 BHK would typically be 600 square feet, which means you're looking at a minimum of 60 lakh rupees, even if it is 10,000 rupees, which is not the case, as I said. I mean, you will get certain distress, older properties at 10,000 rupees, no doubt. I will tell you that there are properties available in Andheri
Amit,
at 10,000
look at the prices of Powai. It's 19,550. Now, if you're talking of areas
No, so Powai
around...
Chandivali itself is out. There's no question
it's
of going.
completely out. But what
Absolutely.
kind of dip can you even expect over here in prices? Going by
No,
what
there
you
is-
said, the 10%, 20%,
No, clearly.
10 to 20%.
I think Powai, we've seen prices in Powai and Chandivali not below 16,000 rupees, even in the worst case scenario. Even in places where one has done bulk sort of transactions.
Which are the areas around Powai
So
that
I
you can
think
look
you'll
at?
have to start looking at Andheri, because Andheri, especially towards the entire Charkop and the entire sort of, the new metro stations, that location is still, there are people who will be willing to look at Andheri East for under construction property at 10, 11, 12,000 rupees.
What about Kanjurmarg and...
Kanjurmarg, the prices actually with the new developments have gone up. They're still in the 12 to 14,000 rupees a square foot price. So for you to actually get anything below 12,000 rupees is slightly hard in Kanjurmarg. I think Andheri is slightly, because of the oversupply actually. Andheri had a number of developments which came up prior to the entire metro development, and people will be willing to sell at even 10, 11,000. So on one side, Kanjurmarg, you'll get about 12, 13,000. On the other side, you get Andheri at again at 10, 11,000 rupees.
So there you go, Sachin. Prices are not really going to crash that much the way you're thinking it will. You will not get a 3 BHK in and around Powai for 45 lakh rupees. Having said that, you can look at the Andheri East area where you should be able to drive a bargain in the resale markets. Look for something priced between 10 to 11,000 rupees per square foot. But you'll have to really, really do your homework. You'll have to do your legwork over there. Go out in the market, talk to brokers, talk to people, and then see what you're getting, what you're being offered. We have Rajendra who's called in from Bengaluru now. Rajendra, what's your question?
Hi, I'm Rajendran here from Bangalore.
Yeah.
My question is, I am planning to buy a site at Bangalore Hennur Road, Hennur Cross, okay, which is costing around 3,700 per square feet. I have already paid the advance. We have done an agreement. So just want to know that after this demonetization, what would be the scenario? Is it the right time to go ahead, or should I wait for some time?
Will Hennur Crossroad be affected by demonetization? This is a market that is seeing quite a bit of activity. He's bought land over there.
Yeah.
Do you think prices will be impacted to a large extent? What do you say?
So, Rajendra, I think it's a great question, because I think there's a very sharp focus on the way land transactions will happen. And plot sales have been very popular because people have been able to park their capital for significantly long periods of time. First of all, your pricing was reasonable till about a couple of months ago. I think now, first of all, people are moving away from the entire plotted scenario because it's not a place to park money anymore. That is the general view. Second is the raw material, which is unplotted, undeveloped land itself is actually falling very fast. In the last 10-15 days, a lot of landowners in Bangalore have made offers to even come down at a discount and transact land. So, in effect, I do see a significant amount of downward pressure on prices on land, and therefore on the plotted development for sure. Second is that even the entire buyer sentiment for plots, which is not a primary purchase requirement, you're not buying a plot because you will immediately start building your villa and immediately you start staying on it. It is more of a long-term investment strategy, and I don't think that's an asset class which is very hot right now. So in general, if there is a way for you to even defer or withdraw or stay put for some time, I would encourage you to do that, because I do see a significant amount of downward pressure. We're invested in plots in Bangalore, and I know the situation is not as rosy as it used to be 3 to 6 months ago. And in the last few days, it's been really, really bad.
So land is not really an asset class to buy into at this moment in time. However, Rajendra has already signed the agreement, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And he's already paid in advance.
Sure.
So in that case, what would your advice be if he plans to stay invested for the next 5 or 10 years?
I think it's a good time to at least try bargaining if you can. I mean, I do understand you've contracted, you've paid the advance, therefore you're locked in mutually. But I think all developers, all projects do require that the investors, their buyers, stay put. And if there is any chance that they are having second thoughts, most reasonable people will want to negotiate or renegotiate the contract and say, okay, either defer the payment or give certain additional SOPs or pick up the cost of registration whenever you're ready for registration, etc. So I think you can still drive maybe a bargain or attempt driving a bargain, because today everybody knows that the pipeline for plotted sales developments is actually drying up very fast.
You should not miss the opportunity to drive a bargain. For all you know, the developer in question or the person who's selling you the land might just turn around and say, okay, fine, I'm willing to, take a lesser amount or give you some more time to pay that money, So try and bargain. Do not miss this opportunity. However, since you've already bought into it, it doesn't make sense for you to actually, not honor the contract, because then there is a chance that the person in question could take you to court, because that is, you're actually breaking the contract over there. So the person could take you to court. So do not do that, but do try and drive a hard bargain. We have Nitin, who sent in a question on email. Now, he wants to know the effect of demonetization on home finance. Amit, you were talking about this earlier. He says loans have become cheaper, but he fears that rates will shoot up all of a sudden. What if the rates increase all of a sudden? How long will the market sustain? This is a fear that a lot of borrowers have at this moment in time, because all of us are just coming off a sustained period where rates just kept going up. Now we are seeing rates going down. Will this hold?
So you're right. I mean, it's a demand-supply situation, and again, everybody is being opportunistic. So if the demand shoots up very significantly, there will be a tendency to also obviously improve rates over a period of time, because rates haven't really gone up in the last 2-3 years, and so people will want to do a catch-up at the first instance. But I don't see that problem, at least in the 6, 9, 12-month period, because the inventory overhang is huge. So before any rate increases actually creep in, they will have to exhaust the existing inventory, and then the impact will start coming up into the new inventory that is getting planned or delivered.
What about interest rates? He's talking about home loans over here.
Yeah.
Do you see home loan rates increasing all of a sudden? Because that's his worry.
No, I
rates
don't
are
think,
coming off. Interest rate is going down. But
yes.
Do you see it suddenly going up?
No. So I think the objective of the ministry, of the banks, is very clear, and I think it's already started with a reduction in the deposit rates. The impact also coming on to the lending rates. Home loan rates are definitely falling. I have no two doubts about it. It's the safest loan asset class in every bank's or every home finance company's books, and everybody is sitting on extraordinary amount of liquidity at this time. So the first and foremost push is, how can we benefit the home buyer who's willing to take a home loan and go and buy a property? So I first expect that before the December 18th announcement by the RBI governor, there will be some softness already. I also expect a repo rate cut in this announcement.
We are also seeing a lot of banks already taking the lead and announcing lower interest rate cuts over there. Up on your screen are the current interest rates at which banks are lending. And also very quickly, at the end of the day, what we are learning and what we've learned at the end of this entire week is that this is a great time to buy a home, great time to drive a bargain, great time to invest in real estate if you plan to stay invested for the long term. If you are looking to buy land, hold on, wait for the market to settle down and then go, because land is an asset class that is being hit the most. But if it's a home that you're planning to buy, this is the best time that you have in a long, long time to actually buy a home, drive a good bargain. And of course, the home loan rates do not hurt either. With that, we come to an end of this episode of Property Hotline. Thank you very much, Amit, for coming and answering all those questions. And we will continue answering all your questions related to real estate and the impact that demonetization could have on it. So if you have any doubts, any issues, call us, write in, or personally tweet to me. I'll make sure that your questions are answered by the country's biggest experts. Thank you very much.
You can watch live TV on our website mpnow.in. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Magicbricks Now. And don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at Magicbricks Now. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/Magicbricks Now.